coordinate with them to just have a little bit of a roundtable discussion with board members. And so we're excited to do that. If you have questions for them, if they have questions for us, it's going to be a discussion hopefully for about an hour. Everybody's pressing me to get out of here on time or early, scalding me. But with the with the start of this, I would just like to invite Leah Fleiter to come up and just do a little introduction and talk about what your advocacy day was about today, and then we'll kick off the discussion. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I thought that I'm so used to having somebody already push the button. So thank you, Mr. Chair, Ranking and Vice Chair. We appreciate being here today. We had a great day today of about 40 school board members and other school leaders, including some principals and some superintendents who were here to advocate for our legislative platform. And so just by way of background, KSB is a 501c4 organization that represents 285 school districts in the state of Kansas, and that's about 2,000 locally elected school board members, some of whom are here today, and at least one of them is actually sitting here on your committee. And it's Representative Wynn, by the way. And Representative Norton, yes. Sorry, it's the KU thing, Representative. It's just, it's turning me off. I live in Manhattan, so we advocate, that's right, Representative Schwertfeger. So we advocate based on a legislative policy that is adopted by our members. And that legislative policy starts with a legislative committee that's made up of 15 locally elected school board members from all around the state. Large, small, everything in between. They visit with us, with Shannon and I, about what the issues they are seeing at home, as well as what we think is going to happen maybe in Topeka. And they come together and come to consensus on a legislative policy document that then directs our policy work here at the legislature. Rose has some folders that she's going to distribute to the committee that have just kind of our top 5 priorities, which are special education funding, opposition to, or I guess it would be better to call it public funds for public schools, capers, and some other issues. And then there's a QR code on there that you can shoot with your phone to see our full policy document. So just to be transparent about how Shannon and I get the direction for what we're gonna lobby on. And then our association is governed by a board of directors that is also a 15-member board of directors. Some of them are also here today. And they are, again, locally elected school board members from around the state. So that's kind of our structure. We also provide leadership training, board development, superintendent search, and also some other insurance and some things like that. So that's very, very quick. If I may, Mr. Chair, we have a couple of groups of people who need to leave early. They've got a board meeting coming up or whatever. So South Brown County and then Nemaha. Okay, they took off already. So I would like to just have people kick it off, but if we could I know Emily needs to leave and I know you need to leave as well. So do you want to come on up?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Those who need to leave, maybe we'll start with introductions of everybody up here kind of on the panel, if you want to call it that, but also those that need to leave that are in the audience if they want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
They want to come up first and just introduce themselves and where you're from. And if we get to questions before you need to leave, we'll try and guide them to you before you can go. So, sir, if you'd like to come up and introduce yourself and kick us off, where you're from, who you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason Selland. I'm from South Brown County, USD 430, which is just north of here, about an hour. We're about a 2A district. I think about 530 students. I'm a board member. Have been for, I think, a little over 10 years. And just have had a great day here. Appreciate KSB hosting us and appreciate you all making time for us today. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. And then now we'll just go around right here. And yep, just grab that mic and move it around closer to you and
perfect.
Go for it.
Thank you, Chair Getz, for having us and the rest of the committee. My name is Emily Reiner, and I'm here wearing two hats today. I'm the Vice President of the School Board of Education for USD 343 Perry-LeCompton, just outside of Lawrence. And then I'm also here as the President-elect for the Board of Directors for the Kansas Association of School Boards. And I was first elected in 2019.
Hello, my name is Kelly Jones, and I'm the president of the Lawrence School Board, and I've been serving as a school board member for the last 7.5 years, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you all.
Where was your school district, sorry? Lawrence, okay.
Again, can you hear? All right, again, thank you so much for having us today, Mr. Chair. I am a proud school board member and vice president for USD 203. It's Piper School District in Kansas City, Kansas, and I'm just really thankful that you're having us here today.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jared Meitler, and I am the board president at USD 323 Rock Creek. We're one of the fastest growing school districts in the state of Kansas, one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Kansas. And despite some of our challenges that some of our smaller school districts across the state face, we face very different challenges. And we are very grateful to be here having a conversation today.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ian Long. I am the Vice President of USD 373 Newton School District School Board. Very happy to have this opportunity to have a conversation with you all. It means a lot to me and my district, so thank you for giving us the time and opportunity to speak with you all. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. Thank you so much for having us. We are working hard, volunteers, zero pay for our time on our school boards. I am with Topeka Public Schools. I'm a retired teacher, retired instructional coach, and I'm just love my district so much and want to do the best for our students. And we hope that you're in that same boat with us, rowing it along to educate the 92% of the kids in state of Kansas in public schools to do the best for our state, and we want to do the best for our students. So any questions you have for us, we are excited to answer. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for your excitement.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm Rod Stewart from Washington County Schools, USD 108. I'm a past president of Kansas Association of School Boards. I'm currently board president of Washington County Schools. This is my 26th school year being on my local board of education. We're a small, thank you. We're a small 1A school. We have about 350 kids, K through 12. Even though we're small, we still have some of the same issues that even like Jared's has. We're not growing like Jared is, but you know, a lot of our common issues we all face. So thank you for this opportunity.
This is out in my neck of the woods. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Getz and members of the committee. I'm Sandy Halling, and I'm the president of USD 459 Buckland Schools. It's a small 1A Division II school. We play 8-man football, which I did not know existed until I met my husband. And I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm very thankful for all of you and your caring and considerations of helping us struggle or manage our obstacles and struggles that we see in public education. So, thank you.
Hey, my name is Mary Sinclair, and I am the board president of Shawnee Mission, USD 512. Thank you so much for having us here. I am serving my 7th year on the school board, and I have a background in special education and educational research. I really value the conversations you've been having in committee this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tina Ray Scott. I am the past president for KASB and I am in my 12th year with my local Board of Education, USD 417, Council Grove, Morris County, and I just appreciate the opportunity for us to be able to be here and have a conversation and a dialogue about why public education is so important to the state of Kansas.
All right, if that gives everybody introductions, we've got our nameplates, and there's plenty of YouTube videos you can watch of us. And thank you for tuning in and caring about public education in the deep ways that you do, and the service that you provide to our local school districts. Just to kind of kick it off, I think if anybody would like to, I'm actually kind of curious on maybe we'll go growth and maybe a smaller district. I think that was maybe one of the first ones. But what problems, what ways do you think we could partner with you in a better way as a legislature for maybe high growth districts and some of the struggles? If you want to talk around that for a second, and then anybody else who has questions and especially for those that need to leave early. So I'll try and tier that, or just anything you want to speak up on something about this as well.
Thank you for the question, Chair Getz and committee members. The first thing that I would say is that, honestly, around some of the things that I know many of the members in this room have probably shared with you all as committee members already, just in advocating. I think one of the biggest challenges that I see in a growing district is that when we look at some of the backfill that we have to do with a lack of special education funding, it prevents us from being able to invest in other areas that our school districts wants to do. A perfect example of that right now, our community strives for academic excellence in all we do. And one of the things that we've been pushing for in recent years is how to grow our CTE programs. And so unfortunately, because of some of the funding shortfalls in special education, we're expected to backfill that from our general fund, and it makes it such that we cannot invest in other opportunities that our constituents want. We have so many of our students that want to be workforce ready as soon as they graduate. Might decide that they want to pursue maybe pathways that aren't necessarily secondary education, for example. And with the opportunity to provide more CTE pathways, we feel like we can provide more sustainable opportunities for those students to be workforce ready and then feed the economy, not only locally, but around the state as well. So that's one specific example where from a growing district, I think sometimes we're a little bit handcuffed because of the backfilling that we're having to do when we want to invest in other areas that are good for all students.
He was the only one that mentioned like a major growing district, but anybody else that would like to chime in on that, absolutely welcome to. And other committee members, if you have any questions of our board members.
We're in the same boat out in Piper. We are the third fastest growing district in Kansas, and we're running into a couple of issues more of space. So I feel like we're continually going to the public for bonds, and that's very difficult when some things have changed with the amount of funding that can come for us for bonds. The second part goes to the special education piece. Again, we are pulling some of our general education funds to pay for some of those much needed services for students. And so again, we have a lot of our patrons getting frustrated with class size, but again, we're pulling from our general education fund to take care of some much needed services for special education.
Appreciate that feedback. I think Representative Brantley had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just wanted to know, are you seeing enrollments dropping or are they going up? Just kind of as you answer around the room. Thank you.
Is that a specific question to just in general? Yep.
In the district I serve, USD 373, we have seen an enrollment trend decline over the last few years, but I do also believe that that is not only a Newton issue or a Kansas issue, it's a countrywide issue. Some areas are still recovering in some capacities after the pandemic, and birth trends and enrollment trends have definitely taken a downturn in competition to alternative learning environments that don't have the same level of care and support for the foundations and love for our public school systems. And so with that declining enrollment, we are kind of fighting an uphill battle. You can look anywhere online any day of the week and see 20,000 or 20 different online advocacy group or online groups that want to be teachers and they want to have schools and stuff, and they're all online, and they don't carry the same accreditation levels or functional responsibilities or roles that your teachers who have spent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the craft to do. And so for some people, that is a quicker option than going to public schools. And with the upcoming potential kickbacks that they can get for that, I believe that will be a continued draw and drain on the public school environment that we all have today.
Any others that would like to respond with that? If not, Representative Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jared, I had a specific question for you because I know you're a rapidly growing district there, and what is your special ed population? What kind of a percentage growth in your special ed population are you having?
Yeah, so the percentage of our special ed growth in our district is actually greater than the overall growth that we're seeing, which again kind of compounds the issue related back to Chair Getz's original question. Representative Brantley asked the question about overall growth if we're seeing that. For us, what that looks like is our graduating class this last year was 85 students in our, our second grade class. I can quote that because of a child in my household is 110 students. And so we're seeing pretty steady growth over time. And one of the things that has created for us, similar to one of Ashley's issues, is the need for continual bonds in order to accommodate space. And some of the challenges that come along with that then are, more kids in classrooms. And if we don't have funding to hire more teachers, for example, because we're filling backfills on sped shortfalls, it compounds some of those challenges. So again, back to the answer of your question is we're seeing more growth in sped students than our gen ed student population.
It kind of made me, I was kind of thinking about that and thinking about the formulas, and we did something last year to allow you to use current year enrollment for rapidly growing districts, and I think that probably helps some with your normal population. But I'm trying to remember on the special ed formula, there's a built-in increase due to like inflation, but I'm trying to remember whether you have an opportunity to increase your sped population in the formula. I almost think you're operating off the year before's on that, and that could be a lot of your problems with backfill.
Yeah, so I'll just start by saying thank you for allowing us to use current year enrollments. That is a significant help for those of us that are in growing districts, for sure. And I don't want to take over the microphone, but if others want to speak to your second comment around SPED funding, that'd be great.
Myth excitement.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, this doesn't excite me because in our district, we have nearly 25% of our students in special ed. And I know we're in an at-risk district and have lots of reasons for having so many students on individual education plans, but when you think about 25% of our enrollment needing special ed services, that we're backfilling nearly $43 million over what we're given by the state. We have we have students that we have to tube feed and change diapers and find mechanical or technical things to help them communicate and, to give them the best quality of life we can possibly give them during the school day. And I don't know about you, but 25% of our population seems extraordinary to me and concerning. So I just wanted to let you know.
Could I ask a follow-up around that? Has there been anything reasons that you've seen as to why? I mean, you mentioned the at-risk, but what other contributing causal factors are leading to that increase? Because I'm assuming that you haven't always been at 25%, but what has caused that increase?
Thank you for asking that. I will put on record, I'm not a physician. I'm just been in the classrooms and on the school board. I think identification of medical concerns, I think has been a part of that. Autism, being able to identify students with autism has made a growth for us. For our students, that lack of nutrition when they're early, when they're wiring, when they're supposed to be learning, that has a piece of it. Lack of real strong home support for a lot of the students, I think has created some learning. I can't think of the word I want because I'm old, but but you know, things didn't happen for them between the year of 0 and 5 that have created concerns for them in their learning progress. And so all of those challenges we take on in school.
I appreciate the feedback. Well, and I was about to say to Emily, just give you some space before you need to leave, and then I got some questions on deck.
Thank you. I appreciate that. To Sue's point, in Perry, we're really proud of the fact that we operate a daycare and a really solid preschool program, because in the communities of Billtown, Grantville, Perry, and Lecompton, the opportunities for daycare are limited, are extremely limited. And so a number of years ago, our district took this on as an initiative. And so the Lecompton School District, or excuse me, the Lecompton Elementary School houses our early childhood program. So we can start taking children as early as 18 months. And we're seeing, you know, the students who participate in those programs are coming into our schools. They are kindergarten ready. They're a lot, they're better able to succeed in our classrooms. And so not only is that a community benefit, that a gift that we're providing to our community members so that they can go out into the workforce and do the good work that we need done. But we're also preparing those students for success because they're able to socialize, they're able to be well-fed during the day, they're able to have socialization time, good play that we know is important for early learning, and then of course just the structure of being in a school building. They come into the classroom ready to learn. So that's certainly something that we're very proud of, and I think helps with part of that learning gap that we see in a lot of school districts, because childcare is a real problem for people across the state and the country.
Well, I'd also give, I know you only got like 3-4 minutes left before you need to go. Did you need to leave at 4? Yes. Okay. That if there's just anything you'd like to say to the committee or to the group while you have the time to do it before you have to leave, just wanted to give you that opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially because you're about to be president and everything, so.
I know, my goodness. This year will go very fast. I know that to be true. Just a little background. I'm a former educator and former administrator in K-12 schools, and now I work in higher education. So I've been incredibly passionate about public ed since the day I was born. My mother was a teacher for 33 years. I think some other things that we're really thinking about in Perry Lecompton is making sure our students are work ready and making sure that any certificates or credits that they can get or anything that they need to be work ready, we're providing that. And so we have 3 CTE pathways at the moment, tech, ag, and fax. I would love to see us expand that. I'll say one of the hardest things is getting instructors. When our Woods teacher retires for the 2nd time, we will have nobody to teach those classes. And those skills are really important. Woodworking carpentry is an incredibly lucrative and valuable career option for students, and it would be a real shame for us to not continue to offer that. So I think being able to recruit and fund those programs would be really incredibly valuable for us. I'm also really proud of our partnership with Washburn Tech, where we're able to get students into various courses and get them certificates that they need to be ready for whatever comes next after graduation. So I apologize that I have to leave early, but I would welcome feedback and a reach out from any of you, and would love to see you at our schools, even though I know you have plenty of your own in your own districts that you represent. So thank you for all you do.
Representative McNorton, you were next, so yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is Perry outside of Lawrence or outside of Topeka?
Yeah, yes. I apologize. We are to the east of Topeka and northwest of Lawrence, yes. Good clarifying question.
Was that your official question? Okay. Well, you burned up one of them. Now you're on your second one, so here you go.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Just a question for anybody in general sitting on a school board at Seaman High School. Why has the cost, just the cost of overall cost of SPED gone through the roof besides the 25%? But is there something else that is just eating you guys up? But you know, I'm just curious because I know it's a big concern of ours that our cost year to year, average per student is going up. You know, we're obviously adding students, but just our average cost per SPED student is just almost out of control. So I just have a question. Why, you know, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you'd just come to the mic, it's a good response. We just want everybody, there's some people online as well. And you.
Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I'd happy to speak to that. I think anybody who's familiar with any kind of industry understands that personnel is probably the most expensive thing that we deal with. So at South Brown County, we are involved in a special ed interlocal with our partners to the north. In South Brown County, we're about 24% SPED. And while I don't sit on our SPED committee, do have knowledge of that. And I know that one of the challenges we've faced over the past few years is being asked to and following through with providing health insurance and benefits to our SPED employees when they didn't have that before. So there's a significant cost increase to do that. And we also run the challenge of trying to be competitive with teacher salaries for our SPED staff and employees. Periodically we lose SPED staff to gen ed classrooms because of price competitiveness. So I would say that it's not necessarily infrastructure that raises that cost, but most likely just personnel. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody else has a follow-up? And Emily,
Becca might be able to help me on this a little bit, but one thing that, you know, maybe part of our problem is we're about 18%, I think, that have IEPs. Does that sound about right? Yeah. So anyways, maybe that's part of it because everybody else at 25%, it sounds like. So anyways, just.
Well, I think you actually, I was just going to go that route. I mean, my background's in special education, and so I really value the state's extra commitment to students. So there are a number of requirements that the state has added above and beyond the federal requirements, and even just, you know, recent conversations around ensuring that we're identifying students who are autistic, and issues of dyslexia and gifted students. So like all of those additional requirements for this that the state has added to the federal component is a piece of, I think, the Kansas story.
Okay, thank you.
next we have Representative Poskin is online, so we're going to pull her up and let her ask her question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
You can.
Awesome. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, school board members, so much for being here. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you in person today, but I'm so appreciative of this discussion around special ed and how not fulfilling the state's obligation to fund that affects our districts. We had Greenbush visiting us, I think Monday it was, and there was a question from the committee about whether or not they had pulled back on special education services. And to me, it sounded like, since we're not funding it, are you not giving the services? And I would just like somebody to clarify that we don't have the option not to serve any special ed student who has an IEP in place, no matter what it costs. Is that correct?
Every board member in this room is saying yes. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so then when you have to backfill, that actually pulls away from what we would consider the constitutional funding for general education for all students, correct? Yes. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for the hard work you do for our kids.
Yes, come on up.
Also, I wanted to add on the special ed expenses. There are many specialists, such as speech pathologists, which sounds like I need right now, who will not work for education because we don't pay them as much as in the regular sector. And so we have to sometimes hire those people to come and service our students, because it doesn't pay for them to work in education, to work under that umbrella. So we have to pay their services outside, because legally we have to provide that service, as she was saying. She's not there now, but we have to provide that. And so we have to pay for those outside services to come and work with our students. So that is also exploded, because we used to be able to do a lot of that in-house. But now those people, their education is so expensive to get through college, they can't afford to work in education.
Next up is Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really, really appreciate all of you being here today, and most certainly the volunteer work you do for our students. We have a huge debt of gratitude towards you. I had several questions, but I will get a dirty look if I give them all, so I'll try to just simplify and ask.
You can do two. How about that?
Okay, I'll do two. Are there ways that we're not giving you enough local control? How are we getting in your way? Don't be shy.
Or just say we're not getting in your way at all. It's great. Just kidding.
Can I? Yeah, yes. Can I talk to SB 47? Yes. So I'm in Lawrence, Kansas, and I'm a board president there, and I am I try to honor my father every time I'm leading that meeting, and he is, he's watching me, essentially. He has two Purple Hearts, my father does. So I try to lead honorably. Recently in the Lawrence Public School meetings, people have been coming in from outside of Lawrence and speaking to me in a way that I can't repeat here. So that particular bill, in terms of retaining local control, has been a fundamental way that I know Kansas to act, and a value that I know that Kansans appreciate, is that at our local level, we understand our communities at an intricate level, and we understand the needs of those particular communities. When we cannot run our meetings, as I know you understand, because you said only 2 questions, that this becomes out of control for us. I mean, we really need your support in rejecting or opposing that particular bill.
I appreciate your passionate feedback. I can tell. I mean, your hands are shaking. There's some trembling happening. I just want to honor. I mean, just the heartfeltness of, whether we agree on policy or not. You care about this deeply.
I know we share I know there are values that we share, all of us in this room, about children and about how decorum.
And that lack of decorum has really been an issue that we've been trying to combat, which I think is a large. If money is a problem, that lack of decorum can be even a bigger monster, because no matter how much money or how little money, if people are not behaving properly, then we still can't accomplish the goal of making things better.
It disrupts our ability to make sure that we are acting in a way that moves the needle forward for our students. And I will say, I will speak to just a board member safety. They are coming into our district and videotaping the meetings, and then they put it out onto YouTube, and then people from all over the country send me threatening, and my colleagues on the board threatening emails that I have to then report to our police department. It takes their resources and time, and it makes it so that my volunteer commitment and my time, I'm so passionate about public education, I know everybody in this room is, I am not safe. I am not safe, and I really need people to understand that.
Yeah, and we had not trying to interject on your question, but just give them personal feedback and relatability. I think that today is really about that. I mean, if we can build some better relationships, we're going to make some better solutions. I mean, last year I had a hazmat suit in the backyard of my house, and my family had to go through that, and multiple representatives did over votes and ideas and rejecting certain things or accepting certain things. And I wish we could get to a place where that wasn't our reality, but in a sense it is, and we've got to deal with it in a way that doesn't exacerbate the problem. I mean, that's kind of the hard part, is this gets into a back and forth, and that never ends. If somebody doesn't have grace to just, all right, you're not behaving well, you're maybe not well, and I'm going to respond better, and I appreciate how you're trying to respond better, and all the board members here trying to overcome those adversities that are a real problem in our culture right now. So, yeah, thank you. Got somebody standing. Come on up.
I'd like to second that. We really do need your support in opposition to Senate Bill 47. In terms of other ways in which local control, the story there, I think, is that in Shawnee Mission, with the restoration of Gannon and the incremental funding that's been restored through 2023, we've been able to reinvest in our instructional resources, which is so critical for quality instruction for our kids. And so the way we go about selecting our curriculum typically is that they are piloted within some of our schools in Shawnee Mission. So we have teachers, general ed, special ed teachers, aides, students, parents of those class who go through a whole pilot process to determine what kinds of, what new curriculum do we need to adopt for English language learning, for math, for science. And that is a really systematic process, very in-depth. They come and report to the board. There's all sorts of levels of community engagement. And those are very serious, those are significant dollars in our budget. And when we had to do all those cutbacks following the recession, and then with the tax plan in 12 making those permanent, it's been a while since we really could update a number of those instructional resources. So we've been very methodical about doing that. And so when there are bills that come mandating curriculum requirements that may or may not fit, or some things we've already addressed, that just adds to a level of financial burden. And we spend our pennies very, we try to spend them as wisely as possible. So there are a number of bills this session even on specific curriculum requirements, and those I think are some ways in which they really don't do service to our students or our ability to use our funds effectively and efficiently to the needs of our community.
I appreciate that response, and I don't mean to keep jumping in. I'm going to we'll come back for your second question. I wanted to just say one thing, that an idea that I'm trying to float and just be in conversation with the State Board of Education is there's certain things that they want to tackle every year, and that those things be kind of on a priority list that is shared with the legislature. Now, this takes relationships. This can't just be you put it on a sheet and nobody agrees on that sheet, and then what things could the legislature, maybe with a few more eyes, a few more committees, what things are the state school board wants to handle this year? And then other things, it's like, hey, we do need some help with this. We don't know when we're going to be able to get to those things, and here's some of our ideas. I think there needs to be a little bit more collaboration on topics that we're addressing. And that's not always the easiest thing in this building, but I just want to keep saying it right here and inside conversations that's what I'm working on, and I feel like this committee is working on, to try and create some lanes and some cooperation, because some of just the stay in your lane language almost creates that combative problem that gets the competitive juices going in people rather than the cooperative juices. And so we're trying to work inside of that and around it in some ways. But with that, I wanted to give Representative Steele before she had to leave, and then we'll come back for a second question and then over to Brantley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for each of you being here. It's honoring to have you here. I too support, what you're saying about, because you can go right now and see every video of us all session on the House. Every day that we enter here, we're on video. Our addresses, our phone numbers, our emails are online. We get door knocks. We get people when my children are home. So I think that's just part of what comes when you agree to be of service and help others. I think that's just a risk that we all take whenever we want to serve and help others. Some things that I'm learning in the legislature is that pre-K and with special education funding, because a lot of schools have pre-K and they're receiving special education funding for that as well, because of the students, whether being at risk or having their own IEPs. And so I'm curious if you have a district have separated out how much is the pre-K special education services costing you versus the constitutionally mandated funding of K through 12. If you've broken that out and if you've realized where those things are falling.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So that we're mandated to, the special education funding for the pre-K folks is also mandated federally?
By the feds.
Yes, I'm wondering, can you clarify what you mean by that?
I'm just curious how much that's costing you as a district. I think that's just important to look at as we look at our education funding model that's coming to a close and a task force around that, and how much is the pre-K costing, because it should be 3, 4, potentially 5-year-olds in that.
Thanks for the question. I think for those of us that are board members in the room, I think knowing drill downs of numbers is difficult for us. I think our role is setting policy and vision, and then we trust our administrators to execute. And so I'm guessing superintendents, for example, could easily quote that information for you. I think another perspective that I think is important with that in mind is that as a state, we have certainly said that making sure, for example, literacy standards are met. And what that means is we have to invest earlier for those 3, 4, and 5-year-olds to be able to be in a place where they're on track for the rest of their educational journeys. And that comes at a cost. And so I think that's an important factor when you consider the early childhood piece as well.
We'll go back to Representative McDonald's second question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate that answer that you gave. I think early childhood is a big investment. One of my biggest curiosities that I'd love to hear from you guys, what steps do you think the state could take to help you with teacher recruitment and retention? I'd like to hear from all different sizes of districts if I could. Thank you.
Again, Ian Long with Newton, USD 373. I would say one of the major things that would help with teacher retention is, and I think most of us in here are going to agree to it, is fully funding SPED. In my district alone, I am looking at $2,377,774. That is roughly 40% of my base state aid and local taxes that we as a district are mandated to have to backfill out of our general fund. So when we are trying to compete with other districts, with other job types, and we want to keep, retain, and empower our educators, we have to have the funding to do that. But if we are spending all of our time backfilling something that no one else is putting in, that puts every district in this state at a huge disadvantage. That amount of money there, because I also have the blessing of sitting on my district's negotiation team, which I go into that in June. So when I have to go in knowing that's how much we are spending to backfill what is a federal and a state requirement, and then I have a teacher of 20 years that wants a raise that they have rightly earned and rightly deserved, and I have to figure out how to continue to move things, I'm gonna make sure that my educators are taken care of. But at the same time, the the rise of inflation has not kept up with the initial agreement. This is 2025. Most of those changes were made in 2010, 2011, and 2012. So we have already been behind the 8 ball for an ungodly amount of years. If you want our districts to continue providing the wonderful educational outlooks for our children, for our future Kansans, you guys got to give us a hand. You guys got to help us. We will continue, and I'm speaking for myself, but I will continue making sure that our SPED functions are funded, and that our teachers are taken care of, and most importantly, that the students in my district are taken care of. But all I'm asking, and I'm sure everybody else here feels the same way, help us with that. Help fund, help keep your word. We teach children the importance of keeping their promises. If you make a promise to a kid and you break it, what does that child learn? The promises don't mean anything. So if we've made a promise to fund something, then we need to do it. We can make money appear up out of nowhere, because I've had the fortunate ability to attend a few meetings and legislative events today, and I'm very thankful to you all up here for your service and everything that each and every one of you do. I know it is a thankless job to be the people that have to make these hard decisions from top on down. But helping our districts, helping with that funding aspect, showing full support for those things will unlock a multitude of change in a district that is either small or a district that's growing. Because that money that they're not paying in that shortfall, new teachers, teacher training, recruitment, professional development, new capabilities and facilities for our students, technology assistance for students that have needs in our SPED classes and across our districts. The ability to better take care of our people in this wonderful state of Kansas. So all we're asking is for help. Thank you.
And if I was a board member, I'd hire you as a superintendent. That was excellent.
I'd like to speak to the point that it's not just teachers that we're having a problem recruiting and retaining. I'm going to give you the list of the openings that are in my school district right now. As of today, we are looking for a junior senior high science teacher. We're hiring an after-school program director. We're hiring aides and interventionalists. We're hiring activity bus drivers. And not only that, but we'll give you a $500 sign-on bonus, we'll train you, and we'll allow you to pick your schedule. My community is small. We are seated between Emporia and Manhattan. We are competing with every other industry and every other job that is available to try to get these people to sit in our classrooms and to get our kids to school safely, to feed our kids, to clean our buildings. It's not just teachers, it's our classified staff as well.
Thank you very much. I needed to hear that.
And I think another perspective there is when you think about the amount of time as a state it took us to meet Gannon, what happened with wages across our economy is, they continue to grow up. If you think about what you can go earn right now to be a sandwich artist at Subway, because of some of the funding shortfalls that we had in public schools, public education wasn't able to keep up with the rate of the rest of the economy in terms of, again, inflation. And so it compounds some of the issues. The other thing is a direct answer to your question, I think, is the investment in capers is another significant factor.
There we go. Thank you. Just to follow up with a couple of my colleagues, I agree with what Ian was saying about how funding the shortfall will help us in so many areas. And then Tina Ray's talking about other positions other than just teaching. One example, our longtime food service director retired the first of the year. We started advertising last fall. We can't get anybody to apply for it. So this semester, we have our board clerk, our superintendent, and the superintendent secretary taking turns. Sometimes it's all three of them doing food service to fill it in. In fact, our superintendent was a kindergarten teacher before she went into administration. So all the elementary kids see her in the cafeteria. The other day, she went and visited the kindergarten classroom and read a book to them. And she asked them, how many of you know what my job is? They all chimed in, you're the lunch lady. Because they see her in the lunchroom. So I guess my point is, our staff always jumps in to get the job done for the kids, regardless. Thank you.
Thank you all for that response. Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess personally, I want to say I absolutely lived what you're saying. I was really blessed to be able to be out in the state and visit many districts and work within those, but I also, in my campaign, was asked to fill a position that opened up, and at 2:30 in the afternoon was notified that, hey, would you fill this? And did open house at 6 and taught third grade until I came here. So with that being said, I want you to know that your committee here has lots of experiences that we've had those hard conversations, and they're not easy. And we've experienced some of those things that you're talking about, but we do have your interest. But I want you to know, too, that that child at that desk is the most important thing that we hold here, that every decision we make, they're tough, and we try to make that best decision for that student sitting at a desk, and those aren't always easy decisions. So with that being said, I want to know about your recruitment of teachers. Do you have alternative certification routes? And how many of those are you using where like a candidate might be in coursework at a university while assuming a teaching position? So just as you're sharing around, I'd like to know those.
Thank you for that question, Representative. In my district, we have public-private partnerships and community partnerships with local colleges such as Hutch, JUCO, and Bethel College in North Newton, Kansas. And so we have things in place that where if we have students that are want to become teachers, want to learn their craft and the profession, we offer them a pathway to be a student teacher, to work towards that, and we allow them and we give them the opportunity to work in our district to get that feel for that district. And in those recruitment tactics that we've used that way, we've had some students that have become paras and teaching aides and are working towards their teaching certifications. And so then those people are invested because we, in our district, we have the opportunity to, if we can grow them at home, then we will try to keep them at home, or let them go out in the world, but come back home with us, and that is the mindset that we are working towards, and that we are doing, and that does plug some of the gaps. It does. It's not a fix-all, but it's better than nothing, Every board meeting that I sit at, and I'm sure my fellow colleagues sit at, we have list upon list of positions that we need to fill, just from people being in the craft, retiring, or looking elsewhere in different things. And so we try to plug those gaps as best we can, but at the same time, if we need to go out and help, we have no problem doing that. Because as you said, at the end of the day, the student is the most important thing. But that is one of the steps that we're taking. Also allowing our teachers to receive additional training after they become a teacher. That way they can broaden their spectrum on what they're capable of doing. You have a teacher that starts out as a K-5 certification or K-8 certification, and they want to learn a few extra things to do that, we offer them the opportunity to seek out that training so that they can so that we offer the investment in our educators, classified staff. We offer that investment in them as a good faith and a sign of trust and faith in them, that we want you to succeed so well. We are going to do everything we can to help you do that within our means and capabilities.
Anybody else doing anything creative around teacher retention?
Everything and anything can be done, including grow your own. But I thought there was a bill this session, so CAPERS is a big piece in terms of retention, and I know there's a big price tag, I think, for moving all to CAPERS 3 out of CAPERS 2, which I would support nonetheless. But there was also a bill that removed, I thought, a penalty for getting our retired teachers back in the classroom and then moving them to like an exempt status or something like that. I don't think that, I'm not sure what the price tag on that was, if there was a big financial piece, but that would be incredibly helpful.
The one that I know that came through was basically the enhancements on CAPERS 3, but it's still moving through the process. I don't know on the other one. Mr. Johnson, do you have any information on that? Or do you have a question?
No, I have a comment.
Okay.
Capers. Can't live with it, you can't live without it. I sure can't live on my retirement with capers. And I had to tell my granddaughter who graduated with honors from a university in Illinois not to come to Kansas because you can't live on it. She went to another state, and we're not fixing it, and you can't get a cost of living raise. So what are you going to tell your teachers? I'm sorry, we're failing on that, and the people that keep telling me we can't do anything are wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think Representative Hill is up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really sympathize with that that comment that was just made. I think that's something we need to fix, because I don't think that's a big price tag issue. I think that's a regulatory issue of saying, yeah, you don't have to sit out for 6 months, or is it 6 months? Is that what the period is? Yeah, and I have never quite figured that out. I guess somebody needs to explain why that's a bad idea, because I think it's a good idea. Yeah, I guess, but when we don't have enough teachers, I'm not too worried about that. I think that was put in place to prevent double dipping when we had an abundance of teachers. When we're shorter of teachers, we need to change that, I think. So anyway, a question I had, though, and first of all, I didn't really say this earlier, but I want to echo what some of my colleagues have said about you serving on a thankless, payless, sometimes reckless position. All of us can sympathize with that. I've been on local boards, I've been on the state board, I've been on this, and I really sympathize with your position on that. I do want to remind everybody that we do live in a democracy, that that our constituents are the people of our communities. Our constituents aren't people that live in California or someplace. Our constituents that live in our communities deserve access to us. And I think that's something to always remember as board members. There was a comment made about mandated curriculum. And I have to go back to that, because I've been here in the legislature 3 years, and I can't, the only mandated curriculum I can think that even comes close to a mandated curriculum from the legislature is letters. And I'm wondering if, is letters and structured literacy a problem for people? I mean, we feel pretty strongly about it up here. So I'd like to kind of shift the conversation a little bit to whether you feel restricted by having to teach letters or structured literacy, or what the challenge is there.
So letters, I believe, is professional development. I don't think it's a curriculum or instructional resource.
Literacy.
We've actually taken, Shawnee Mission has taken full advantage of letters. That's been a great asset for us. to lean into that.
That's
So
the only thing
been-
I can think of that we have a mandated curriculum on. So, I mean, we specifically state in law that you can't use a queuing system and that you need to use structured literacy in teaching kids, and that's the only thing I can think of. So I don't know if there's something else.
The safety bill and the one I think has a hearing tomorrow on health and.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things that come up, but I'm talking about things that we've done.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
To things that are in law. I'm trying to think of things that are in law.
Financial literacy and, we had a financial literacy instructional, course, and so it's just when you get overly restrictive mandates, it hinders your ability to meet the needs of your community. That's why we have our local, we look at what the state standards are for a grade level, and then we kind of find the best match of those instructional resources according to those
I think
state
we
standards.
feel pretty strongly about structured literacy, so I'm wondering.
I'm not debating structured literacy at all. That's.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I might offer a comment. I think the comment was really around mandating curriculum was really about local control. And I think everyone in this room could agree that the investment in letters is excellent. And I think most districts have chosen to invest in that in any way possible for our kids, and have seen tremendous amounts of positive response from our teachers and growth in our students because of it. I think the comment that was made earlier about mandated requirements was more about proposed legislation and not allowing local control around those decisions. Is that fair?
I mean, I want to clarify from a legislative point of view. If we had approached literacy of a local control issue and saying every district can do what they want to, I don't think we'd be making the progress that we are. So I mean, I mean, be a little bit. I guess I'm a little bit cautious in saying that the legislature should never get involved in dictating, because we felt we had a crisis here, and I think maybe some of you felt like we had a crisis, and I hope we're making progress on that. But if there is resistance to that because it's being dictated from the state, I guess I need to know about it.
Representative, I would think for that part, we are very appreciative of the letters and the funding support and allowing staff members to get that professional development. I think part of that, there was already information and things put out by the Kansas State Department of Education that had already flagged educators that there was a need, and that there was already pre-discussion prior to that coming to the state capitol. So I think there were already discussions about concerns with literacy prior to coming to the state. But we're thankful that you've allowed more and more educators to get that professional development and allowing that funding to occur.
Yeah. Thank you.
So recently we have a list of science of reading curriculums that we're able to purchase. In a school district, we have all types of curriculum to purchase. And to purchase a curriculum now is like several $million per curriculum. Like if we're going to get a science curriculum, we have to buy it across all the grade levels as much as possible. So we put that as a budget, we put that in a rotation. So about every 5 to 7 years, you would come back to that science. When we're asked to buy a new reading program, curriculum, to put in place in our district, then we have to put everything else on hold again, come back, and which we might have purchased that literacy program 2 years ago. Spent millions on it, spent lots on training to implement it, but now we're being asked to purchase it again, another series, another program, which costs us millions. So then that takes us clear out of the rotation again, And so that's, I think, is the concern when we talk about that local control. We have to do that purchase in a certain amount of time according to the state. And actually, it would be more beneficial for our budgets if we could wait till this series is over so we can start another one because of just the money. It's just the money that occurs in our budgets when we have to buy an unexpected curriculum. And so that's that local option. Well, we want to do this, but can we wait a few years? Because we've already put that amount of money in. And so I think that's probably where that discussion really lies for local choice. But I also know we had like a certain amount of time here, and I'm afraid I won't be able to say this. We appreciate so much of what you do for us. And I know it sounds like all we're doing is asking for money. It sounds like dollar, please, dollars. We're just asking you to consider whatever you can give to us instead of an automatic no, or taking away SPED funding, or cutting it even more than what might be suggested that's affordable. We're just asking you to give us, be in that boat with us and paddle with us and help us catch up the best we can. We know it's expensive to educate 92% of the students in the state of Kansas. It's a lot of money now. A lot of money in staffing, a lot of money in curriculum, special education, and we so appreciate what you gave to us in special ed last year. I cannot tell you how much that helped our school districts last year when you did that. And just like we talk about that backfilling, it gave us a little breathing room and to help other students in our district besides special ed. But we just want to thank you for what you do, what you're considering, what you're thinking about, your care for our students in Topeka, or in the state of Kansas, Topeka Public Schools. But we just appreciate what you are trying to do for us, and we want to be partners with you. We will collaborate with you anytime it's possible. So I just wanted to say that before I didn't have a chance. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate those comments, and I think, you know, we got a chart here a couple hours ago of our budget that we spend from the state, our entire budget, and you know, it is a relatively small piece that we have to carve out more money. You know, we put a significant amount of money in general education money this year, about $270 million. And, you know, this committee also was very supportive of adding additional SPED money. That came out of this committee, and people sitting around here right now were supportive of that, and we tried to get as much as we could. And, you know, we're certainly understanding of the challenges you have financially. Each one of us has seen our own budgets go up and the amount that it requires. And so, you know, you're amongst friends here. And I think that's important to remember. And we also are looking to the future and seeing where educational funding will be 5 years from now and 10 years from now. And so I appreciate your patience and your understanding and you know, talking about some of the things about rapid changes in enrollment and how that affects. And of course, we have districts out west that have rapid changes downward in enrollment. That's also a problem. And so all of those things we try to take into account, and we appreciate your understanding and your patience as we work through some of those issues. So thank you.
I'm just got a small comment towards, and then I'll got a couple side questions on the kind of the reading curriculum. Kind of, I heard you talking around. I mean, I think one of the tensions inside of that is there was a lot of evidence that the current curriculum just wasn't working. And so very seldom is there that sort of a shift that is a almost mandated shift, but that came at a time where, okay, this has got to go in a different direction. And it wasn't in a, you know, try and hamper finances sort of mindset, but it was back to Representative Brantley's point that that student in a chair that needed the right curriculum, and we needed to make a shift. And so that was really what that was about, and just wanted to, there is a tension there around local control, and then, all right, everybody's seeing something needs to be done. Who's going to take action? Whose responsibility is that? And we do have a constitutional responsibility to make sure students are being educated. We try to take that as very seriously. It gives me headaches. Like it's not always an easy task to deal with all the issues and the personalities and the things that happen. So I have one more question, but I'll let Representative McDonald quick question, and then Representative McNorton.
I think we all agree, letters is awesome. Really, it was Department of Ed that started all that. But my question is about budgets and Leah. Where do you guys get your funding for KASB?
KASB is funded based on dues from every single member of the association. So we have 285 members, and each of those districts pays dues, and those dues are prorated based on the size of that school district's budget. So I think like Mary is in Shawnee Mission, so they're probably the biggest budget in the room. So their dues are going to be higher than Rod's, because Rod is, are you 1A or 2A? I can't, 1A. So so there's a differing level of dues depending on the size of your annual budget. So I hadn't thought about that. Thank you for asking that.
Like no dark money, no mysterious.
No, it's all, sometimes I like to say it's in our name, right? Kansas Association of School Boards. That's every single board member in this room pays dues to KSB.
Thank you very much.
So thank you. Rod. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Was that your question? Oh, okay. Okay. So do you want to ask it of me or someone else? Okay. Okay, so the services we provide are, we do superintendent searches. We also do what we call Leadership for Tomorrow, which is a leadership training group. I will tell you, the class of 2014-15 is the best. But others in this room will agree with me. I think we're going to have a fist fight afterwards out in the hall. That's a great cohort because you're with school board members from around the state, and you get to travel around the state and you visit different successful programs. I know when I was in the program, we went out to Liberal, and we had a bunch of kids who were had been, this was back in, well, it was 14 or 15, kids who had come up from, they were unaccompanied minors. Remember when all those kids were coming up and they were ending up in Liberal, and they were being taught by a teacher who, she was a native Spanish-speaking teacher, but these kids not only didn't speak English, they didn't speak Spanish either. They spoke like Quechua or something from Central America, right, Representative Hill? And they made it to Liberal because someone back in their war-torn Central American country had like a cell phone number of somebody, their uncle, in Liberal, and those kids, most of them walked that whole way, and they were in this classroom in Liberal, and that's something that I have never forgotten, right? And so, it's a great opportunity because you get to go and see the challenges and the successes of a lot of different districts. So I went off topic there, and I know we're running out of time. So we also provide leadership development, and we have a natural gas pool that we run. We have legal services that we offer to our school districts. I know, a lot of times if you're in the middle of a board meeting on a Monday night and something comes up, you can call, and your call rolls to the attorney who's on call that night. So I apologize if I got a little off topic there, Mr. Chair, but. Work comp, negotiations training. Thank you. See, my members are pitching in. Yeah, so.
A little bit of a follow-up. Did you have one?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Ask your question.
Not a follow-up, but I was going to get to that because you didn't mention all that you do. So besides the dues, so I have a probably more of a comment, but you might get with Leah and Shannon or somebody. At our school board, we had an issue 4 or 5 years ago on a name change that got out of control, like you're talking about. And we made a policy, you have to be in our district to be able to talk, to be able to address the board. So I don't know if that would help your situation, but just a comment from what we went through, and that if you're not a member or a resident of our district, you're not allowed to speak.
We have gotten quite a bit of a legal counsel and some from KSB, and we've been very grateful to that, and have created boundaries and good partnerships with our local police department, and have instituted bans where we can, or no trespassing where we can. And folks are coming to talk about things that are germane to the business of the board, but not necessarily specific to our community per se. When I do want to make one comment around the safety matter. They are coming to create content for YouTube pages that they have, and they make caricatures and things like this of the board members there. So when it is going out, it is not a like they're just taking a picture of our normal business. They are in fact utilizing that board meeting to create content for YouTube for their own gain. So if they do not come to Lawrence, Kansas, Johnson County, no shade, they're coming, and because that's where they're from. And so we try to create limits, but we have had conversations about limited public forums, and they are presenting to us that they are Kansas taxpayers. I care very much about leaving room for people to come and talk to our community, and we make sure they have space. We've got really good boundaries around there. But that piece around whether or not they can come just if they're from our district has been contentious. We've gotten that. It's considered maybe a little bit of a legal gray area, but I appreciate the advice.
I don't think it's illegal. Like I said, get with the KSB.
We definitely have gotten with KSB.
It's really helped with ours when we did that, because, you know, if somebody's from Kansas City, I really don't care.
You know, I feel like
if they aren't one of my constituents, I don't care what they think. I mean,
well, I do feel like I feel compelled to tell you something good about Lawrence Public Schools. So I just want you to know, in terms of like infrastructure, something that hasn't come up here, but a way in which I think that we could have good partnership. And I want to tell you a way that we're saving money at the local level. So we've implemented a private fiber wide area network to improve bandwidth, reliability, and security and connectivity to reduce the digital divide for our constituents, for our students. And that has an estimated general fund savings around $3 million over the duration of the contract. That's money that we can put directly back into paying our paraeducators a living wage, which is what we're working toward. Additionally, we launched a pilot solar project at one of our elementary schools where we're estimating a general fund saving of $480,000 during the life of the project. We got those projects in place in part from E-rates and other incentives that came out of COVID. Those incentives, of course, have dried up. I'm not asking you to provide necessarily a whole new brand, and certainly not at the state level. But nonetheless, when you look at some of those projects and how they've worked, when we are given money to build infrastructure and build good sound building, like for example, if you have a growing district, you might find in fact that you have these opportunities to turn some of that into savings that can go back into the general fund. So it doesn't all have to come from the state per se. But I do want to mention that there are very good things happening in Lawrence, Kansas, beside people disrupting our board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you for that story. I want to jump over into, I kind of want to give a shout out to my district, Dodge City. It had, and it comes back to one of the main things that a lot of us ran on, or is just a big constituent issue, which it also is to yours who voted you in, was property tax. And I just wanted to create a little bit of a conversation. It might be the last thing I get to. I do have one more question, but I think this one's important to get some feedback around. And property taxes in Dodge had been high because we had a couple bonds, and there was a lot of stuff that was happening and growth and kind of finishing out some building projects. But we had the opportunity to hold those bonds kind of in a long-term note, and they decided, no, that's not what the voters gave us permission to do. They gave us permission to take out this bond and to pay it off on time, or to pay it off early, not to string it out. And so our property taxes went down in Dodge City in a drastic way, honestly, that it really wasn't a campaign issue for me because of what the school system had done at the local area to get ahead of this and then take care of business as they could. And they could, so they did. And I just wanted to see, kind of what the property taxes, I mean, people are looking at that as a state issue, but that's 1.5 of the mills, and it's more of a local issue. And so I just wondered what you guys were thinking as board members on that particular voting issue, not just for school boards, but for the state. Any feedback and things that you guys are doing around paying those off or minimizing ways to not increase property taxes?
I know that I'm one of the unicorns in a growing district. However, I will say that one of the things specifically to my constituents that's a little bit unique is that outside of a couple gas stations and mom and pop restaurants, shout out to South 40, it's all rooftops and farm ground. There's no industry. And so, I mean, property tax is the way. It's it. And so, while again, I recognize that I'm a unicorn for my constituents specifically, that's our option.
And I just basically wanted to advertise the responsibility around that. I mean, I think if the voters give you the permission to do it. But I also think there's other entities out there that are maybe wanting that to be extended out and hold on to those notes and hold on. And maybe I'm wrong in that, but that was just some of the feedback that I got from my local district, that they chose to be responsible to what the voters gave them permission to do in the time frame that they were told to do it. And I think that builds rapport and trust. You know, you talked about that. If we say we're going to do something, we need to do something, because there's a trickle down. There's an example effect that affects culture. And anyway, anybody else who wants, I see Shannon raising her hand, but also you're next.
So Kelly knows some of this, but I've been on the board through two very large bond issues in my district, and there are a couple things we did, to your point, around trying to minimize the property tax impact of that. When we planned our bond issues, we waited until we had bond issues rolling off, so that while the valuation increases did result in more money being collected, we at least kept our mill levy flat on those bond issues. So that was, or at least on the first one. The second one, I think it was only about $1 million that we ended up having to increase. The other thing that we've done is to strategically work with bond counsel to watch the markets. So over the last few years, we did have an opportunity to refinance those bonds twice to save our taxpayers money, and we absolutely did that. And so I think that's an example where, when you're thinking about services that school districts work with outside providers on, having that ability to hire qualified bond counsel to give you advice about when and how to do that is a really important component of being able to be good stewards of those taxpayer dollars. So.
Chair, I would second that exact statement. That's what we've been doing. We have two current bonds, same thing. When we find an opportunity to refinance, that's exactly what we're doing to save some dollars for our patrons. The second thing, when it comes to bonds, it's very difficult after we just pass a bond and then we have to do our revenue neutral rate statement that goes out, then all of a sudden we have a panic. And it makes it difficult. It's just, we have to go back and do a reminder of, but remember, 6 months ago, we just voted on this bond, and now you're seeing that come back on your tax statement this year. And again, there's been times when we've gone for our bond and said it was going to cost you 15 mils, and as we've done the budget, we've come back, well, really, it's 9 mils, still more money, but it's challenging when we have to make those revenue neutral rate statements go out and people are saying my taxes are higher.
Appreciate that. Representative Nguyen. Oh, sorry. I didn't know he was next.
Mr. Chair, Board, in our district, one of the ways that we try to help alleviate the fear of the raising of taxes and mill levies is we kind of work in tandem with both the city and the county and kind of make sure that we are looking at a potential bond next year. So we try to stagger them so that we keep our mill levy the same rate, even if the other municipalities in our districts have to raise their taxes due to infrastructure needs or whatever the case may be. We try our best to not have a bond issue at the same exact time when property valuations in Harvey County have gone up twice in the last 6-8 months. You know, so we are trying our best to strategically place our bonds. So when the current bond we have, when it gets ready to roll over, we try to make sure that we slide into that sweet spot, as was said earlier by one of my other cohorts, to keep at least what we're doing at the same level, because we can only do what we can do with the district. We can't control how the city or how the county decides if they want to build a brand new road or they want to build a brand new sewer infrastructure, a new residential neighborhood. We can't control when they do that and the effects of that. So we try to make sure that, and this goes back into public-private partnerships, we try to make sure we stay communicative with our other municipalities. That way, well, hey, we're thinking about, doing a brand new road and sewer infrastructure out here for this logistics park. Okay, let's see what we can do to kind of work in that time frame to ease the tax burdens, because nobody likes getting that note saying, hey, stuff is going up. I mean, I got one myself in October, then I got another one like 2 weeks ago, and the percentage rate that went up is just enough to make your eyes do like that. So just trying to be more communicative and working with the other municipalities actually helps out really well. We're trying to alleviate those fears that people have when you do have to do the revenue neutral rate and all of that.
Side note, I think, well, it's got to pass, so it's possible legislation, but revenue neutral could be going away. And there'd be basically a budget incentivizer that says if you stay within inflation or below, you can access a certain amount of funds as a city or a municipality or county. And so instead of just saying you got to do it, it incentivizes it. So that could be a little bit of a shift, but I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but that is a bill that is moving through that affects municipalities. I don't know that it affects schools.
The number?
I was going to say that it's for municipalities. It's not the revenue neutral for schools.
It gets rid of the revenue neutral. Oh, sorry. It gets rid of the revenue neutral rate hearing altogether. So that would be great news for the schools. And then
Yeah, I told you it affected the schools.
it did in a positive way. But the that other piece about accessing that fund only
that's for
affects the city and county.
municipalities. Yeah.
I just didn't want any of my members to be like, Leah, you didn't.
When are we going to get that state money?
Right,
Because we stayed in our budget. I agree. Representative Wynn, sorry.
My parting words, you must read the fine print. Don't. But again, I guess you're gonna let me conclude? Whoa. Anyway, welcome again. Very happy to see you. Full disclosure, I am very proud to serve with people on the board. I've learned a lot about Kansas. I will ask you where Rock Creek is. I have no clue. Oh, okay, thanks. Anyway, but I would not be my authentic self if I didn't say to you, while we've enjoyed this session and we're glad that you are here, you know as well as we know there are people who do not support public education. Otherwise, the legislation, you would not, what number, what print. So I must take this time to say, keep in touch with our legislators, because they don't all support public education. And we have to realize that of the 500,000 kids who 90% are in the public schools, they are, what is it, like 59, I think, % of the budget. So it's very important, and so he'll probably cut the mic pretty soon. But nevertheless, for those who know me, know that I have to look at the big picture, and I have to get along with people, because you can't get anything passed in this building. But let's not fool ourselves. Let's do the hard work and know that taxpayers are screaming at us. She's maybe in Piper, but she's Wyandotte County. We've got 4 districts in Wyandotte County. And we go home every day, and we see the people. So it's, nevertheless, thank you for coming. Do not make this the last time you come. And call Jason Getz. I'll get your phone number and his email for you.
No, and
And if it's from Topeka, I don't really care about it.
Oh, shots fired. Yeah, I appreciate everybody being here today and the feedback, and I think I'm just trying to keep stepping in the right direction. I mean, you can't, like, first downs make touchdowns, you know, that is kind of, I'm not a football player, but that's an easy one that comes, and to pay attention to the tension, you know, to pay attention to the tension. There's still tension around this. It's not solved yet, but in order to untie this, paying attention to that tension of how to untie it, everybody has a part to play. Nobody's exempt from, you know, holding respect and high esteem. Finding solutions, not just griping about problems. That's a responsibility of everybody. We won't get anywhere just by complaining about stuff. And so while I appreciate emails that I get of, you know, don't vote for this or get this out of here, the ones I really appreciate are, here's a solution to this. Here's an idea that maybe nobody's thought of and nobody's talking about. Why not? That is what brings things in a better direction, not just the no language, not just no on funding or no, don't do that idea. It's what is a better idea? What is a better way to do it? So I encourage this group to think in that direction, and that's where I want to go. And I will absolutely interact just like we have today, but even more. And I've kind of advertised, I'm not the smartest one around education at this, but I do feel a responsibility I was a pastor for 20 years, to pastor it in a better direction, to where we have some brilliant people in this room and in our districts that we have access to those ideas, and I believe we can make them happen. So thank you for your support. Thank you for being here today. With that, we need to approve some minutes, so I'm going to do that really quick. We got a motion to accept our minutes. We got a second from Representative McNorton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Representative Poskin.
You're welcome.
You were very loud. And with that, I'm sure we want to have some more conversations after this, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here.